Hello and welcome back to Life Lessons with Sheila. Welcome today to a total different video, one that I haven't done in a long time. But it is a book review and it is for Christmas in July. Before I begin, I will direct you down to my description box below. I will link up Annie's channel. Annie Janney has done a Christmas in July collab it was an open collab, and we were welcome to join in, and this is my final contribution to it. So I would highly recommend you go check out our channel. There's a lot of fun crafty stuff going on over there. But we are here to talk about Debbie Macomber's Christmas book, Mr. Miracle. Mr. Miracle is part of a four book series of the miracles. This was, I think, the second one. It was after Mrs. Miracle came Mr. Miracle. But I did not get this book until Christmas time of this past year. And when I began reading it, I realized now was not the time for me to delve into that because my emotions were still raw from losing my husband at Christmas time the year before. So I decided for July I would read it, and I'm very thankful I did. I will tell you it's a very easy read. I honestly read most of it in a day. You don't have to do that, but when I get into a book, I really get into it, and I don't like to be distracted. So it was a very good book, actually. I highly recommend any of Debbie Macomber's books, but this particular one I will link down in the description box below as well for you to check out, because I highly recommend this book. It is, if you don't know the Miracle series, it is angels that come to earth to be our guardian angels. And Mr. Miracle was Harry Mills, who was, he's always been an angel. He's never been on earth. And this was his first time coming to earth. So he had to learn how to deal with emotions and feelings and different things like that, which I dog-eared a couple of these pages I'm going to quote from. I'm not going to read you the whole book, but it's definitely one that is a tearjerker, especially if you've lost someone you loved in your life. I'm actually going to pass this book to my daughter because there's a lot of healing in it as well. And sometimes it just takes a fictional story to touch you, to get you to get out of your own way and to realize that God has bigger things for you. The first note I dog-eared. I think first I'm going to tell you a little bit of the backstory first before I get into reading some of these parts, because you'll need to know a little bit of it. The book is about Addie. I don't remember her last name, but she had left her home for college, and she didn't go to college. She went out on her way, and she found her way back after her dad had passed. And it's Christmas time, and her mom wanted to go on a cruise, and Addie was home for good. She was moving back home. Things had gone south for her on her own, and she realized she needed home, so she came home. And she encouraged her mom to go on this cruise with her best friend, who happened to be her neighbor. Well, her neighbor has a son named Eric Simmons, and he was a couple years older than Addie and would tease her growing up. They were neighbors and friends from the get-go. So these two women go on a cruise, but the thing is, Eric had gotten into a car accident just like a day or two before they were supposed to leave on their cruise, and there was nobody to take care of him. So Addie jumped in and said that she would, because she didn't want her mom to miss out on her vacation. And they didn't buy travel insurance, so they weren't going to get reimbursed if they had to cancel their plans. So Addie stayed back, and she took care of Eric, and they had to bury their differences aside, their little quirks and things that they had developed growing up. I'm not going to go into a bunch of details because I really recommend reading this book, but that's kind of the backstory. So Addie is going to college, and Harry Mills is her instructor, who is also the angel that I was talking about. He's stuck with these people that he's never dealt with before. He's never dealt with human interaction, with human emotions. So Harry also has an assistant her name is Celeste. She was a barista on the campus, on the college campus. And Celeste was his mentor, the one that was leading him and guiding him on his mission as an angel. And so in the process, they were working through Addie and Eric's relationship, situationship, I should say. Okay. And so there was a quote that was said by Harry. No, it was actually said by Celeste. She says, and Addie, has her opinion of Eric changed too? And Harry grinned and said, I believe it has. And Celeste looked pleased. That's excellent news. Humans tend to hide hold on, I'm in the dark here. Humans tend to build walls when they should be opening doors, and I thought that was very profound. Humans should hide behind walls when they should be opening doors. We tend to hide behind walls when we get emotional, our emotions get into it, and we worry too much about what other people think, and we worry about our own feelings getting hurt. And we need to stop that. As humans, we just need to quit. Then later on in the book, I wanted to share. One of the characters in Harry's class was Danny, and he happened to be someone who was in prison. And so he was going to college to get this class so that he could get a job. And Addie was talking to him, and she had made this statement: we all make mistakes, Danny, big and small, but you don't have to let them define you forever. And isn't that what this book is about? They're talking about Charles Dickens, a Christmas story. I think that's the name of it, right? Silly me, it's A Christmas Carol. I always say A Christmas Story because that's one of my favorite Christmas movies. But they were reading, their class assignment was to read Charles Dickens' A Christmas Carol. And the next scene I'm going to share, Harry and Celeste were sitting outside of Eric and Addie's homes, which they are still next door to each other. And they were looking in on Addie, and Addie was actually looking through her window at Eric's house. And in it, Harry really wanted to impress upon Addie Eric's good qualities. Closing his eyes, Harry concentrated on placing the thought in Addie's mind. When he opened his eyes, he saw that Addie remained standing in the dining room, looking over the window, or Eric's house. It didn't work, he said, feeling defeated. Don't be so sure, Celeste said. She hasn't moved, said Harry. Celeste smiled. She's weighing her options. We can only suggest, Harry. Humans have the gift of free will. They have to make the decision themselves once we prayerfully urge them in one direction or another. And I think that is so true. And we forget that humans have free will. And our angels do go on our behalf and try to convince us of the right decision to make. We just have to be still and be able to listen, to hear. Anyway, she takes over the hot cocoa to Eric, and they're sitting and talking. They're talking about Scrooge, and Addie says, "Look at Scrooge," she said, becoming more animated as she spoke. "Isn't he a great character? We haven't gotten to the part near the end of the book where he purchases a Christmas goose and delivers the gifts to Bob Cratchit and his family, but everyone already knows that's how the book ends. Scrooge went from that greedy, self-absorbed individual to a man who was giving and kind. It was an overnight transformation." She realized that kind of dramatic change didn't generally happen as quickly, but this was fiction, and that was the way that the story needed to be told. Eric appeared to be weighing on her comments carefully. "Do you believe that this turnaround in Scrooge's personality lasted more than a few days or weeks?" Addie had a feeling Eric was really asking about her and the steps she had taken to change her own life. "I'd like to think it did. Scrooge recognized that he was wasting his life. He had nothing but his gold. It took 3 ghosts to show him that all the stuff in the world was incapable of bringing him happiness." "Giving his money away did?" Eric asked. "Scrooge didn't give away his gold," she corrected kindly, speaking off the cuff. "He gave of himself, and in doing so, he found what he wanted and needed all along." "And what was that?" Eric asked. "His heart. Until then, Scrooge had completely ignored the need for others, for relationships, and because he did, he became bitter and mean." I loved that part because I think of all the times I've dealt with bitter and mean people. I never think of them as a Scrooge or someone who was in Scrooge's shoes, who simply had nobody in their life because they shut them all out. Through this story, Harry has also been pursued by a French teacher, and he's had to deal with those emotions as an angel, as a human instead of an angel that he knew. He knew how to handle people, or other angels, which there was no conflict, there was no advancement. But Harry had gone to Celeste. It said Harry felt her disappointment. "You don't ever need to be afraid to tell me something," his mentor continued. "I'm here to help with your adjustment on the same way that you're helping your students." And that just made me want to quote that, because how many times do we not want to, that we're afraid to admit something, that we're afraid to say something, whether we're speaking up for someone or against someone, we're afraid to say what needs to be said. I remember, many times I'd be afraid that I was going to hurt my husband's feelings. So I would keep something trapped inside. And of course, the atmosphere said it all. And it would come out eventually. But I always felt better once I told him what I was feeling. In the story, Addie and Eric have come together. They ended up kissing. I won't spoil that for you, but they developed a connection. And in that connection, there was still some feelings about Christmas that Eric had held on to. This man was like Scrooge. He hated Christmas. Couldn't stand, didn't even want a Christmas tree, didn't want to see any of it. He wanted nothing to do with Christmas. And Addie was trying to figure out why. And it come out that he proposed to a girl on Christmas Eve and was denied. And so Addie tells him, "It isn't just this Christmas that's got you down. You're still dying for the beautiful Ashley, the love of your life. That's the reason you're so negative about the holidays. That's the reason you didn't want me to put up a Christmas tree. or cook a special dinner. You're living in the past, holding on to the memory of a broken heart, hanging on to the pain. Addie leapt out of the chair, and all at once it was much too difficult to sit in one place. For reasons she had yet to digest, she was red-hot angry. How long do you intend to stay hidden while your heart heals? And that got me in my feelings, because how long do we hide in the grief? How long do we hide in the things that hurt us? This is why I love Debbie Macomber's books, because she gets to the root of you. I don't know how she does it, but every time I read one of her books, it just touches me in an amazing way, in a way that I can't explain to anybody. It's like I read the words that I'm needed to read. In my own grief. How long do I sit in my own grief? I've sat long enough, to be honest. I don't want to grieve anymore. I don't want to be made to feel guilty for living. I don't want to be made to feel guilty for wanting a life and wanting to live my life to the fullest. Because I still have one. I still have a life. Sadly, he's not here anymore, but I didn't die with him. So my heart and my life should not die when he died. If you have lost somebody and you have felt lost since that passing, let yourself free. Let yourself free of that. Let go of the grief. I loved those words. How long are you going to wallow in your grief? I know it's different for everybody, and everyone goes through things differently. I thankfully have my faith, and I have friends and family that I can call and lean on. But it's inside of me that I have to change, and it's inside of me that I have to let go of the grief. And not until then can I move forward. And that was Addie. She had lost her dad, and her dad, it gets brought up a couple times through the story. And her dad is the one who sent Harry to Addie. I mean, none of us know how angels work and how the things of God works. But to think that someone you love and miss could send an angel your way is just amazing to me. And the last note that I bookmarked was the end cap. It was the very end of the book, and Celeste and Harry are talking about the mission and how things have gone, and Celeste had asked Harry about Danny, which Danny was the one that went to prison. And Harry had given plenty of thought to the young parolee. Sorry. Danny's got a good heart. All we need to do is keep him on track. He has tremendous potential. I agree, Celeste said. You've done well, Harry. You've adjusted to human emotions and have come to love these humans just as God intended you to. His heart raced as he asked, "Does that mean I'll be able to continue with my work here on Earth?" "I believe there's a very good possibility that you will." This was the best news Harry could have gotten. Oh yes, just as Addie had thought, this was going to be the best Christmas ever. Anyway, that was my take for the story, the parts that really stood out to me that I wanted to share. It's a very tender-hearted book. You may not be sensitive as I am. You may be hard and harsh and have no feelings. But definitely keep a tissue with you as you are reading this book. I definitely recommend it, and it will be on my to be mentioned again. Definitely at Christmas time I will remember that book and suggest this video to you then, so that you can go back and read it. or listen to my review, I guess. Anyway, I'm gonna let you guys go. Thank you for listening to me babble on. I'm sorry you've had to listen to Sniffles too. It was a very good Christmas in July. Thank you for joining. I'll talk to you guys tomorrow. Bye.